Hi, this is Erin from Blossy Bee. Welcome to my channel. The plan for this video is to unpack some recent parcels from Pouring Your Heart Out, Amazon and River Art Resin, and then to create some coasters with inspiration from a Julie Cuts video which I've linked in the description. And to do that, I'm going to be using Julie's 10cm round coaster mould, stunning scrapbooking card from Stamperia, and my new favourite tool. So the first one I've got is some more resin, and this is the River Art Resin, and just quickly go in here so you can see. There we go. So that's that way. River Art Resin, deep pour, 2:1 ratio. That's interesting. I didn't know if my last one had deep pour on it. It probably did. So that's good, because I'm about to run out, so that means I've got more resin. Now, this one was definitely a big splurge, and I'll cut that off. I only ordered this on, I think, the Monday, and it arrived on a Friday, so I was very impressed with the shipping. And it is my first ever Julie Cuts mould from Pouring Your Heart Out, and it's a 4 coaster mould, and these are the 10cm coasters. So I'm very excited to see what I can come up with that. Very exciting. Alright, our next one is from Amazon, and it could be something not so exciting. They've sent my recent Amazon order in 2 parts, so let's have a look and see. Okay, oh, this is exciting. So this is the Fiskars circle cutter, and I did have this mould in mind when I ordered that, so that's perfect timing. So I can't wait to try that out, see how it goes. And oh, this is a rotary art knife, and I've seen some other crafters use some in the UK, but I couldn't find that brand in Australia. But I thought I'd give this one a go and just see what happens. So that's good. And oh, some self-adhesive, sorry, you have been ing me. Oh dear. But anyway, look, they've tried, haven't they? Nice sticker. So these are cork self-adhesive circles. Again, purchased specifically for that Julie Cuts mould in mind. And then the last one from Amazon, I've never got one from them in this sort of flowery leaves packaging. It's very sort of Australian eucalyptusy. So it's a box within a bag. Ah, yes, this is a silicone rubber kit. Now, this is teeny tiny to what I expected. So, I could not have read it properly. Just get this out. So, this is called Silicreate Liquid Silicone Rubber Platinum Cure, and it has a shore hardness of 15A, a pot life of 30 minutes, and a cure time of 6 to 7 hours. So I thought that would help me making moulds quite quickly, but that are also nice and soft and easy to demould. And there are some, oh, hang on, there's some instructions in here, a bit faded, but I can definitely still read those. And what's that? Oh, a little Silicreate. Oh, that's interesting and possibly a little bit cheeky, but I purchased it from Amazon, and this is an offer to go straight to their store. So I'm really looking forward to having a play with all of this and, yeah, see what we can come up with. So at the beginning of the video, I mentioned I'd been inspired by a recent Julie Cuts from Pouring Your Heart Out video, where she made some beautiful coasters, and I'm going to try and follow her methods because she's not only inspirational and educational and motivational, she also is very successful, and I thought if I try and emulate her steps and actions, I can't go wrong. Well, I hope not anyway. So I have mixed up 60 mils of River Art resin, and I'm working on my Estoyo heating mat. It is still very cold in Tasmania, so I'm making sure that everything is warm. I have added in some white pigment paste from Just Resin, and to doubly make sure that I'm not going to have any sort of clumps of unincorporated paste, I'm decanting into another little cup, and then I'm just going to give that a stir, and when I'm happy with that, it is time to get out my new mould. I'm very excited about this. It's my first ever mould from Pouring Your Heart Out, and it is also my first handmade mould, so that I haven't made myself. So I'm very happy to be using this. It's very heavy and sturdy and super shiny. So I'm going to go ahead and pour the 60 mils into each of the coasters, noting that each one takes around about 15 mils to just give a thin coating at the bottom. So it barely really comes up to about halfway of the coaster, and it was very clean straight out of the packaging, but immediately on opening it, I managed to attract some little bit of dust. Life living in a house with doggies and having long hair and all of those bits and pieces. So I'm just pouring in that resin mixture. This is a 2-to-1 epoxy resin, and it is going to take probably 6 or 7 hours to cure, at least to the point where I can start measuring and working with it. So I want to keep this mould very clean and tidy, so I'm cleaning it up as I go. And the resin is just, with my help, making its way to the edges of the mould. And it all went really well. So later that day, the resin has cured, and it is now time to teach myself how to use the Fiskars circle cutter, because I know this is a 10 centimetre mould, but I want to do a couple of practice runs just with some scrap paper to see if I can get this working, and how I can go about getting a perfect circle. So just to run you through this little machine, the orange circle on the top is where you press down and apply pressure with. Just pointing there at the blades, you get 3 blades with it, and you are able to change the measurement of the diameter of the circle very easily by spinning the little clear cog underneath that orange, and then pushing the slide measurement in and out. So I've chosen 10 centimetres, and I'm just showing you there that when you push down on that orange disc, there is a little foot that comes out, and that's what grips the paper. And this is so different from my previous circle cutters, because they all relied on a spike going into the middle of your circle, which obviously isn't good for your paper. So I'm just showing you there that that is the cutting edge going around in a circle. That was so easy to do. And there we have a perfect 10 centimetre circle. So I go ahead and pop that in. Now I'm being very careful not to dislodge the white epoxy resin that I've got in there. And the 10 centimetre does fit perfectly, but too perfectly for me. So I actually did just wet my fingers there to squeeze the paper to get it out. It was that snugly fit in there. So you'll see me adjusting that little clear acrylic cog there. That releases the tension on the ruler to slide in and out to adjust the measurements. So I decide to drop down to approximately 9.9 centimetres, so just under that 10 centimetres, just to try and give myself a little bit of wriggle room to see how that goes. Now this one was user error because I didn't actually apply even pressure all the way around, but it still was more than adequate for measuring this up. So I pop this one in, and I can see straight away that is fantastic. That gives me just that little bit of wriggle room. And I think what I would suggest is that if you don't want to see the colour underneath, you would use the 10 centimetres. But if you are doing a transparent image or an image that has the same colour around the edge, I think you're just fine going a little bit smaller. So in a recent video, you may have seen this gorgeous scrapbooking paper from Stamperia. And I've decided that I would like to use some the wolf and the whale. But I'm a bit nervous about this. This is the first time I've ever used the Fiskars cutter on an image that I'm going to put into resin or use anything for. And so I wanted to have a bit of a practice. So I'm using one of the images that I am not using today, just to see how it goes. So I have positioned it and I'm moving that blade around. Now, I will say I have quite severe osteoarthritis in both of my hands, and I did find this tricky. It's not difficult at all. It's just I don't have that mobility in my hands at the moment to move it around. So I'm making it look approximately 47 times more difficult than it actually is. Now, this one, I only moved the cutter blade around once, and I realised quite quickly that because this card is thicker than paper, I needed to either apply more pressure or go around twice. So what I decided to do was just try and ease it out, not panicking, because I know that this isn't one I'm going to be relying on using today. And look, I was really happy with how that came out. The size looked good, and there was a tiny little bit of paper, that needed tidying up, but it should be good. So, going for test number 2. Now, test number 2, I decided to apply a little bit more pressure, and I'm going to run the blade around twice. And I am working on my self-healing cutting mat, by the way. I think you could also probably use a Cricut or Silhouette mat as well, particularly with the adhesive. That got the big thumbs up. So going around twice and just that little bit of extra pressure worked perfectly on this heavy card or heavier card. So now to the ones that I'm really looking forward to using in this mould. And the first one, I spin it around twice, and it is the beautiful wolf. And straight away, I'm a bit disappointed because the circle ran into the cutout bit from the previous circle. But anyway, look, I keep going because I want to see, how the others go and if that's going to be an ongoing problem. So that one looked great. And here we go with the whale. And again, I must have not quite had enough pressure, and that one had the same issue where it ran into the cutout piece of the next one. So by now I'm thinking not quite happy with that. I think I'm going to go down ever so slightly in size. So I adjust the measurements, and then I cut out another test piece, and then I decide I'm going to go over the piece. Now, straight away, I could see that I had not done a very good job of that, and I also hadn't taken off enough. So I ever so slightly adjust the Fiskars circle cutter again, and just trying to get that perfect size, that custom size for this project. And look, we're talking millimeters here. So I hold it down as firmly as I am able to, spin it around, and look at that. Just gorgeous. So you can trim circles that are already cut into shape and get them into, more precise dimensions. And these are, I'm getting better. I feel like I'm getting the hang of it now. So, of course, I need to go ahead now and make them all the same size. And I do know that this is going to make them quite a bit smaller than the actual mould, but I'm okay with that because the base is white, and I think it'll be okay. So I do go ahead and do the last one in that new sizing. So pretty happy with that. Okay, so next step is to protect these beautiful images when they go into the resin. And to do that, I'm going to use Mod Podge in gloss, and I'm working on a plastic pocket or a sheet protector, and I'm going to go over not just the image but quite liberally over the edges. I want to make absolutely sure that those edges have a coating as well, because resin is able to seep into any paper and it will darken it, and depending on how far it seeps in, it can actually just ruin your project. So I want to do the best job possible of getting these. Basically, you're waterproofing them, and the Mod Podge is a water-based, like a glue or a sealer, or a glue and a sealer, and it is easy to clean up, but because it is a water-based product, I want to be absolutely certain before it goes into before it comes into contact with resin that it's perfectly dry. So I've given these all a thin but consistent coat, and ensuring that the outside edges are well covered, and I'm just going to pop those onto a mat to dry. And I thought I'd just quickly show you how I clean up my sheet so I can use it again. I literally just take a wet one or a wet cloth, because it's a water-based cleanup, and just clean that down, let it dry, and it's ready to go for the next coat. So I left these for I think 15 or 20 minutes, and I found a little sort of a sunny spot in the house, which is lucky because it's so cold. And now I flip them over, and I'm going to go ahead and do the back of these, and exactly the same. I'm giving them a fairly thin but consistent coating all over, and paying particular attention to those edges, making sure that the bottom, I'm not as worried about the brush strokes as the top sides, but I do want to try and get them as flat as possible and as neat as possible. So again, once they're done, I take those off, pop them on the tray, and then I do another quick cleanup. And now I am ready to go ahead and do the second and final top coat. So just keeping in mind that this is what you will see through the resin. So you really do want to make sure that your coating isn't textured, unless that's the look you're going for. And some people do use Mod Podge to make a textured coating, but I do want mine as smooth as possible and as glossy as possible. And I'm again really working hard to get those edges fully covered in Mod Podge to have the best possible chance of not having the paper react with the resin at all. So these are going to sit to dry for about probably half an hour. You can use a heat gun to move this along a little bit faster. The only thing is I find that the heat gun can make the paper curl. So if you do have the time, I'd highly recommend you just do it this way. So I have my pieces sitting in a teeny little pool of sunshine, being watched over. Jess, your hair has gone all staticky. What's going on? What's going on? What sort of fluff? So this? What is it? Who's the pretty girl? Milo, how are you going? Oh, okay. That's how Milo's going. Oh, you two are funny. Let's all go here. Oh, Tess, what did you do to get your hair to go so staticky? You probably shouldn't giggle at your dogs, but you know. Mummy loves you. So, time now to apply the final coat of Mod Podge to the back of the paper. And this time, while the Mod Podge is still freshly applied, I'm going to stick it down onto the coaster, onto the hardened epoxy resin. And I'm just going to use a piece of paper towel to just quickly sort of run around the edge and make sure that it is pressed down quite firmly and that it's in the right place as well. So these are quite flat. A couple of times they did try and curve up, but I just pushed them down and they stayed flat, which was great. And I didn't apply a very thick layer of Mod Podge, so there's none sort of oozing out of the side or anything like that. And once I'm happy with the fact that that's all stuck down, I'll go ahead and do the other three. I've sped this section up just because it's the same process, just applying a fairly thin but consistent layer of Mod Podge over the back of each of the circles and cleaning off the plastic pocket and moving on to the next one. So as I'm moving these around, I did start to become a little bit concerned that the coaster might be lifting from the base. So I was wondering how to handle this. I could either take them out and then effectively dome them, but because they are coasters, I do want them to be as flat as possible. So I decided to go ahead after the Mod Podge dried to use some UV resin and some Snow White, very fine mica powder from Just Resin, and blending those two together. And then I'm going to go around the edge of each of the coasters, and this will do two things. It'll seal the edge so that when I pour the final top coat in, it won't slip down the side of the coaster, but also it will cover up the different coloured circles around the images and also make like a frosty, snowy sort of an edge, which is very fitting to the setting. Now, I did have this wonderful plan of weighing the UV resin and then measuring out the sparkle. It just didn't weigh enough to register, so I've just mixed up what I thought was reasonable, and then I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit more. I have had this UV resin sitting in a warm water bath, and just to make sure that it is as thin as possible so that I can actually get it to do what it needs to do. So I'm just going ahead and running a little bead around the edge. I start off using one of my plastic paddle pop sticks, but I ended up deciding that it would be much easier to use the little pouring spout and yeah, just making sure that it is up against the edge of the coaster. And as I said, covering up those different colours around the edge. I think some were blue, some were grey. So this way they'll all have a really consistent edge to them. I do not enjoy using UV resin. I actually dislike it intensely. I don't like the smell. I find it quite stressful. It's just not my thing. But anyway, look, I'm doing the best I can. I have got a UV lamp that I'm going to pop over, and I do give them each several minutes, and once I'm happy with that, they will be ready for that top coat of epoxy resin. I did have some of the UV resin left over, and you will see a little turtle mould coming into play. I don't know how that will go because it isn't a clear mould on the underside, so I can't actually apply the UV light through the bottom of it, but I've tried to cure it. We'll give it a go. Worst case scenario, I'll put it out in the sun. Let that giant UV lamp in the sky work its magic. So into this epoxy resin, I've added just the tiniest amount of that snow white mica powder and a tiny little amount of silver holographic glitter. I just wanted to get the tiniest little hint of a sparkle. So these are now fully cured and looking really lovely. So I did go ahead and demold the turtles because I wanted to get them in under the UV light on the background. Now this is the howling wolf, let's say, and just so beautiful. And I'm really liking how the background is being picked up by the sparkles and that little bit of white. I think it's really adding to that effect. Our beautiful whale and our very handsome wolf. Most of these just sort of popped out, really. It's such a beautiful mould to use, so I highly recommend Pouring Your Heart Out's moulds from Julie Cuts. And then lastly, we've got the whale tail, and just looking gorgeous and sparkly there. So it's still very not great weather here in Tasmania, but I did manage to find a little patch of sunshine to pop them in and show you what they look like in sun. Apologies for the shadows, just not a lot of alternative for me at the moment. So they do have that beautiful, delicious sort of shimmery sparkle, that silver mixed with that beautiful white mica, just perfect. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, it would be fantastic if you could click the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. It's free, only takes a second, and it really does help me out. And I get so excited when I see that new people are joining my channel, and I just want to share the love of crafting that I have with as many people as possible. And feel free to leave a comment, any suggestions, feedback, I appreciate it all. And just to end up, here's some photos of the finished product. Thank you again. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.